The 10 oldest surviving monarchies in the world. Thank you to Lumen for sponsoring this video. Monarchies were born when strong leaders defeated their neighbors and consolidated lands. And they die when they are conquered by stronger kingdoms, or when their own people get fed up and overthrow their spoiled sovereigns. While kings, sultans, and emperors once dominated every corner of the earth, only a handful of monarchies have withstood the tests of time to arrive in the 21st century intact. Today, let's count down the 10 oldest surviving monarchies, learn how they were founded, how they survived civil wars, revolutions, and incompetent rulers, and who is sitting on their thrones today. Number 10. Luxembourg. Siegfried, Count of the Ardennes, was a 6th-generation descendant of Charlemagne, the Frankish emperor who conquered much of Western Europe. After Charlemagne's death, his many descendants sliced up his empire. Siegfried was the 6th and youngest son of the ruler of Middle Francia. His older brothers inherited everything worth having, so he set out to establish his own realm. In 963, he purchased Bock Rock, and on the foundation of an ancient Roman building, he constructed a castle. A city grew up around it, and Siegfried became the first Count of Luxembourg. His realm was part of the Holy Roman Empire. The imperial throne was passed by election among the powerful families of Germany. Over the years, 2 counts from the House of Luxembourg were elected emperor, Henry VII and Charles IV. When Charles took the top job, he handed Luxembourg to his brother, Wenceslaus I, and elevated him from count to duke. In 1441, Elizabeth I, who had no children, sold the duchy to Philip, Duke of Burgundy. However, her cousin, Anne of Austria, and other relatives claimed the title was rightfully theirs for the next 3 decades. Philip's granddaughter, Mary I, the Rich, wed Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I. Their grandson Charles became Holy Roman Emperor and Duke of Luxembourg. He rolled Luxembourg under the Spanish Netherlands, which he granted to his son, Philip. For the next 3 generations, the King of Spain was also the Duke of Luxembourg. But when incredibly inbred King Carlos died without an heir, his French and Austrian relatives went to war over Spain. Louis XIV of France conquered Luxembourg, but in the peace treaty he handed it back to the Habsburgs, minus a significant chunk. Holy Roman emperors included Duke of Luxembourg among their many titles until 1794. That year, the French Revolutionary Army invaded. Luxembourg regained its independence after the fall of Napoleon in 1815. The title was elevated from Duke to Grand Duke and granted to Willem I, King of the Netherlands. In 1830, the western half of the Netherlands rebelled and formed a new nation, Belgium. They claimed Luxembourg, and more than half of the small nation became part of Belgium. Luxembourg introduced a constitution in 1868. In 1890, Willem III was succeeded by his daughter, Queen Wilhelmina. Luxembourg did not allow women to become Grand Duchess, so the title went to her cousin, Adolf. His son, Willem IV, had 6 daughters, so the law was changed to allow Marie Adelaide to become Grand Duchess. Her grandnephew, Henri, became Grand Duke in 2000. There have been 52 monarchs of Luxembourg, including 7 women. Number 9. Norway. Viking king Harald Fairhair founded the kingdom in 872. Much of his life is recorded in the sagas, which were written centuries after his death and include tales of history alongside battles with dragons and sea monsters. While these sources are not wholly reliable, Harald is generally considered to be the first king of Norway. Over the next 500 years, Norway was conquered 6 times by its neighbor, Denmark, and once by Sweden. In 1388, Queen Margrethe I of Denmark brought Sweden and Norway under her control and created the Kalmar Union. In 1523, Sweden won independence, and Norway tried but was defeated. In 1814, Sweden's new French crown prince, Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte, defeated Denmark and forced them to hand over Norway. So instead of the kings of Denmark wearing the Norwegian crown, it was the kings of Sweden. Norwegians continued to be resistant to foreign rule, and the ancient king Harald Fairhair became a symbol of the independence movement. In 1905, the people peacefully and successfully sued for independence. A referendum confirmed that they wanted to re-establish their ancient monarchy, rather than become a republic. But Norway had been ruled by foreigners for so many centuries that no one knew who the rightful king should be. The people elected Prince Harald, the second son of the King of Denmark. He took the ancient Norwegian name of Håkon VII and was crowned alongside his British wife, Queen Maud. The couple dedicated themselves to their new nation, traveled widely to meet their people, and were very popular. Håkon was a symbol of resistance when the Nazis invaded Norway during World War II. His grandson, King Harald V, inherited the throne in 1991. There have been 70 monarchs of Norway, but only 40 of an independent Norway. 8. The United Kingdom. The British monarchy is often dated back to either 871, when Alfred the Great merged the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms of Wessex and Mercia, or to 924, when his grandson Aethelstan consolidated more lands to become the first ruler of all of England. But the Scottish monarchy actually predates the English. In 843, Kenneth MacAlpin, the king of Dalriada, invited his neighbors, the Picts, to a feast at Scone. Once the guests were drunk, Kenneth's men pulled bolts from their benches, and the Picts tumbled into concealed pits, armed with sharp blades. After impaling his enemies, Kenneth became king of the Picts and founded the Scottish monarchy. Once the kings of England caught up, they fought with the kings of Scotland for 8 centuries. England was often dominant, but Scotland fought back fiercely and maintained their independence. Wales had their own princes dating back to Owain Gwynedd in the 1160s. But in 1301, King Edward I of England conquered Wales, put the prince's head on a spike, and gave the title to his own son. To this day, heirs of the British throne are titled Prince of Wales. In 1603, Queen Elizabeth I of England died childless, and her cousin, King James VI of Scotland, was offered the crown. He became King James I of England and ruled both nations in a personal union. In the 1640s, the people rose up against his son, Charles I, and he was deposed and beheaded. But his son, Charles II, was brought back to rule in 1660. When his brother, James VII and II, was ousted by his daughter Mary I and her Dutch husband, William III, the Scots were none too happy and rebellions ensued. Under Queen Anne, Scotland's economy was in serious trouble, and they had little choice but to unite with England under the 1707 Act of Union. England, Scotland, and Wales became Great Britain, but not everyone was happy about it. Many Scots joined the Jacobite cause and marched to put James VII's grandson, Bonnie Prince Charlie, on the throne. But they were massacred at the Battle of Culloden in 1746. Ireland has its own history of high kings, dating back to Mael Sechnaill in 862. But since the 1500s, the nation has been controlled by the English monarchy. In 1801, Ireland became part of the United Kingdom, but the Irish weren't thrilled. In 1922, Southern Ireland gained independence, while Northern Ireland remains part of the UK. From the 16 to 1800s, Britain amassed the largest empire in human history. Since then, many British colonies have won independence. However, the monarch of the United Kingdom is still the monarch of the Commonwealth realms. These 15 nations, Antigua and Barbuda, Australia, the Bahamas, Belize, Canada, Grenada, Jamaica, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Solomon Islands, and Tuvalu all consider King Charles III as their head of state. Number 7. Morocco. Idris ibn Abd Allah was a 3 times great-grandson of the Prophet Muhammad and was born and raised in Arabia. 2 of his brothers rose up against the Abbasid Caliphate, which ruled the area, but they were put to death. Idris rebelled as well, but was defeated in battle. He managed to escape to Egypt and then to Tangier. He married Kinza, a lady of the local Araba tribe. Idris conquered large parts of northern Morocco and founded the city of Fez. He reigned as the first emir of Morocco from 788 to 791, but he triggered vengeance from the Abbasids and was poisoned by an assassin. A few months later, Kinza gave birth to a son, Idris II, who took over his father's fledgling realm, added more land, and developed Fez into a thriving capital. They founded the Idrisid dynasty, which ruled Morocco for 200 years. For the last 1,236 years, the throne of Morocco has passed primarily by agnatic primogeniture, though the king does have the right to designate another male relative as heir apparent. They kept harems of dozens of women, so there were usually plenty of sons to choose from. 17th century Sultan Ismail bin Sharif had a harem of over 500 women and more than 800 confirmed biological children, making him one of the most prodigious fathers in recorded history. The title of the monarch has changed over the years, from emir to sultan to king. The sovereign also holds the title Commander of the Faithful. The current king is Mohammed VI, who has ruled since 1999. In 2011, during the Arab Spring, Moroccans pushed for and won a constitution, which still grants the king substantial powers. There have been 104 Moroccan monarchs. Number 6. Oman. In the mid-700s, the Umayyad Empire, which dominated the Middle East and North Africa, fell. Al-Julanda bin Masud was elected the first Imam of Oman. He was the nation's religious and political leader and ruled from 749 until he was killed defending against an invasion from the Abbasid Empire. Oman continued to be ruled by imams, who were elected from the various tribes for 7 centuries. They established a maritime empire which dominated the Persian Gulf and grew wealthy trading with Africa and Asia. In 1406, the imams were in decline, and the Nabhani dynasty took power. In 1551, the Portuguese made Oman a protectorate, but the monarchy continued. In 1624, the Urabi dynasty was established. Imams continued to be elected, but members of the previous imam's family were always chosen, making it a pseudo-hereditary monarchy. In 1650, Sultan bin Saif expelled the Portuguese. In the 1700s, the Persians occupied the coast, and the Omanis fell to civil war. Ahmad bin Said emerged victorious and took the titles of Sultan and Imam. He established the Busaid dynasty, which remains on the throne today. In the late 1700s, British influence grew until Oman was an unofficial colony. In the 1950s, a civil war was fought between Omanis on the coast and in the interior. The coast won with the help of the British, in exchange for lucrative oil contracts. In 1962, communists opposed both the Sultan and the British. Sultan Said bin Taimur was ousted by his more progressive son, Qaboos bin Said. He renamed the nation the Sultanate of Oman and ended slavery. During his reign, oil revenue vastly improved the quality of life. Qaboos died in 2020, and because he had no children, his cousin, Haytham bin Tariq, was named Sultan. There have been 59 monarchs of Oman. For centuries, kingdoms across the world have celebrated the end of an old year and the beginning of a new with big parties and too much food and drink. But now that the celebrations and indulgences of the holiday season are through, I'm excited to get back into a normal, healthy routine in January. And this year, I found an amazing tool that helps me maintain a healthy weight, increase my energy level, and feel better in my body. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. All you have to do is breathe into Lumen first thing in the morning, and the app lets you know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then you get tailored guidance for the day to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and stress management. Because your metabolism is the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits. You can also breathe into it before or after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health. To get 20% off your Lumen, just click the link below or go to lumen.me/Lindsay and start taking charge of your health today. And now back to history. Number 5. Spain. Like the United Kingdom, Spain was the product of unions between several smaller kingdoms. The line of monarchs can be traced back to 718, when Visigoth prince Pelagius of Asturias pushed the Muslim Umayyad Caliphate out of the northern Iberian Peninsula. He established a Christian kingdom and is the forefather of all future Christian Iberian monarchs. In 910, Alfonso III was forced to abdicate by his 3 sons, who split the kingdom into Asturias, Leon, and Galicia. All 3 were reunited as the Kingdom of Leon under Fruela II in 924. In 1037, Fernando of Castile defeated his brother-in-law, Bermundo III of Leon, and had himself crowned the first emperor of Spain. He established the Jimenez dynasty, which would dominate the northern peninsula, despite a few name changes following Queen's regnant, until 1700. In 1474, Isabel I inherited the thrones of Castile and Leon. She married her cousin, King Fernando II of Aragon, and they united 7 different royal bloodlines, the kings of the Visigoths, Asturias, Navarre, Leon, Galicia, Aragon, and Castile. Isabel and Fernando pushed the remaining Muslim kingdom of Granada out of Spain. They also launched Christopher Columbus's voyage and the Spanish Inquisition. Isabel and Fernando are usually counted as the first monarchs of a united Spain, even though their monarchies date back much further. Their daughter, Juana, inherited both kingdoms. Her son Charles also inherited the Holy Roman Empire from his paternal Habsburg side. He wore himself out trying to rule both, and he handed the empire to his brother and Spain to his son, Felipe II. The Habsburg kings of Spain married many of their Austrian cousins until their line was so inbred that King Charles II was unable to reproduce. He died at 38, and his Habsburg and French relatives went to war over the Spanish throne. The French won, and Louis XIV's grandson became King Felipe V. The Bourbon dynasty remains on the throne to this day. They had short interludes from 1808 to 1830, when Napoleon put his brother, Joseph I, on the throne, and from 1931 to 1975, when the monarchy was abolished following the disastrous reign of Alfonso XIII. You'll notice that his numeration dates back to the many King Alfonsos of Asturias. Dictator Francisco Franco named Alfonso's grandson, Juan Carlos, as his heir, and he re-established the monarchy under a democratic constitution. His son, Felipe VI, took over in 2014. Between him and Prince Pelagius of Asturias, there have been 69 sovereigns in the line of Spanish monarchy, including 8 queens. Asturias is such an important part of the history of their monarchy that the heir to the throne, currently Infanta Leonor, still holds the title Princess of Asturias. Number 4. Denmark. According to the royal house, it was founded 1,314 years ago in 710 by King Ungendas. However, the first Danish king who is historically verified is Gorm the Old, who ruled around 936, though there is evidence of kings before this time. This was in the middle of the Viking Age, when Scandinavians built longboats and traded and raided from Russia to North Africa. They even established colonies in Iceland, Greenland, and North America. Harald Bluetooth conquered Sweden and Norway and converted to Christianity. He is the namesake for wireless connective technology. King Sven Forkbeard conquered England, but his grandson Harthacnut lost it and Norway when he was poisoned at a wedding. In 1363, Princess Margrethe wed Prince Håkon of Norway, and they had a son, Olaf, who inherited both thrones. He died at 16, and his mother became queen. She then conquered Sweden and united all three kingdoms into the Kalmar Union, which was dominated by Denmark. In 1523, Sweden rebelled and won independence. Since the establishment of the Oldenburg dynasty in 1448, kings of Denmark have alternated names Christian and Frederick. Denmark continued to rule Norway until 1814, when Sweden won it for themselves. In 1848, revolutions swept across Europe. To avoid bloodshed, King Christian VIII agreed to a constitution. In January 2024, Queen Margrethe II, the second queen regnant in Danish history, abdicated in favor of her son, who is now King Frederick X. He is the 58th verifiable Danish monarch. Number 3. Cambodia. According to legend, around 68 CE, an Indian merchant ship traveling near modern-day Cambodia was attacked by pirates. They were led by Princess Soma, the daughter of a local chief. The merchants fought valiantly but had to beach their ship for repairs. Soma was impressed with Captain Kundinya's bravery and proposed marriage. Together they founded the royal dynasty of Funan. This foundation myth has been backed by recent archaeological evidence. Samples taken from proto-historic people buried in the cemetery of Angkor Bori have high levels of South Asian DNA. In 802 CE, King Jayavarman II united the warring princes of the area, launching the Khmer Empire. It spread the influence of Hinduism and Buddhism in Southeast Asia. In 1431, Khmer fell to the Siamese Ayutthaya Kingdom, modern-day Thailand. In 1863, the area became a French protectorate. After a period of Japanese occupation during World War II, Cambodia gained independence in 1953. During the Vietnam War, Queen Sisowath Cosamak was pushed out of the country, and the monarchy was abolished. The Khmer Rouge took over in 1975 and carried out the Cambodian genocide. In 1992, the United Nations governed Cambodia, set up elections, and reinstated the monarchy under Sisowath's son, Norodom Sihanouk. His son, Norodom Sihamoni, was crowned in 2004 and is the current king of Cambodia. There have been 115 Cambodian monarchs, including 11 ruling queens. Number 2. The papacy. According to Catholic tradition, the first pope was Saint Peter, who was one of the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ. It is said that Peter, who was a fisherman, was given special authority over the church by Jesus in the year 30, 1,994 years ago. After the crucifixion, he traveled to Antioch in modern-day Turkey, Corinth in Greece, and then to the capital of the mighty Roman Empire, spreading the Christian faith along the way. Emperor Nero did not take kindly to his preaching and had Peter crucified upside down in 68. But one of his protégés, Linus, stepped in as leader of the fledgling religion. The line of popes continued and the Christian faith spread. By 312, Emperor Constantine converted and ordered his subjects to stop throwing Christians to the lions. The emperor constructed a basilica on the site of Nero's circus, where many Christians, including St. Peter, were believed to have been executed and buried. The popes endured the fall of the Western Roman Empire. In 756, Frankish king Pippin the Short conquered central Italy and gave it to the church, establishing the papal state, which was under the direct rule of the pope. Upon the death of a pope, a new pope is elected from among the College of Cardinals. In the early church, many popes were married, and their sons would follow them into the priesthood in the hopes of being elected pope themselves. There is a legend that in the 800s there was a female pope named Joan who disguised herself as a man. She was exposed when she went into labor during a procession, after which she was murdered for defiling St. Peter's throne. But Pope Joan is now considered more fiction than fact. In the 1000s, celibacy became mandatory in the priesthood, but the rule was not always followed. Pope Boniface VIII came into conflict with King Philip IV of France. Philip captured the pontiff and had him beaten and imprisoned. When he died of his wounds, the king forced the election of a French cardinal, and the next 7 popes ruled from Avignon, France. Gregory XI returned to Rome in 1376. From 1506 to 1626, the impressive Renaissance religious palace that is the modern St. Peter's Basilica was constructed over the tomb of St. Peter. In 1870, Italy unified and the Papal State and Rome were annexed by the new monarch. King Victor Emmanuel II forced Pope Pius IX to relinquish his secular power and live as a virtual prisoner in the Vatican. The situation was resolved in 1929, when the Lateran Treaty between Pope Pius XI and Benito Mussolini established the independent state of the Vatican. In this 0.19 square mile area, the Pope is still monarch. The current Pope is Francis, who was elected in 2013. He is the 266th Pope since St. Peter, and the oldest surviving monarchy in the world is Japan. According to legend, the imperial house of Japan was founded by Emperor Jimmu in the year 660 BCE. He was a descendant of the sun goddess Amaterasu and the storm god Susanoo. Jimmu conquered the kingdom of Yamato and established it as the center of his empire. National Foundation Day on February 11th still celebrates Jimmu. However, there is no reliable evidence that he actually existed, and historians consider the first 9 emperors to be mythical. However, it is probable that a powerful dynasty did exist in that era. Even if we don't believe that the imperial house was founded 2,684 years ago and count its foundation from the first historically accepted emperor, Suzhen, who ruled in 97 BCE, it still predates all the other surviving monarchies. The Japanese word for emperor, Tenno, meaning ruler from heaven, was borrowed from China in the 7th century. Tennos remain head of the Shinto religion. From 1192 to 1867, the samurai class took control of Japan, and shoguns became the power behind the throne. Though emperors were mere figureheads, their line continued unbroken. Emperors had a single empress, but also a hierarchy of concubines, so there were nearly always plenty of heirs to take the throne. Japan was largely isolationist until 1853, when the United States forced them to trade with the West. In 1868, Emperor Meiji took control back from the shogunate. After defeating Russia in 1905, Japan expanded aggressively. They joined the Axis powers during World War II and were defeated. Japan was occupied by the Allies, and a parliamentary constitutional monarchy was established. The current emperor is Naruhito, who was enthroned in 2019. The succession is based on agnatic primogeniture, meaning only men are in line for the throne. Naruhito's only child is a daughter, Princess Aiko. There was support for changing the succession law, but in 2006, Naruhito's younger brother, Prince Fumihito, had a son, Hisahito, who is expected to occupy the throne in the next generation. According to the official count, starting with Jimmu, there have been 162 rulers of Japan, including 8 reigning empresses. Want even more tea on history? Check out the History Tea Time podcast. You can now follow History Tea Time on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and check out my other history videos. You can also join my Patreon to support my work and get early access to all of my multi-part series. Thank you for watching.